Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
Hey, this is Rob with Old Guy Tech TV interviews, and we're here today with Joe Weinberger running for judge in El Dorado County. So I want to thank you, Joe, for coming into our little old studio here and taking some time with us. And I always tell everybody that's running for office that thank you for running. Win, lose, or draw, somebody's got to run in this country, and it takes a lot to get out there and put yourself out and to run. So I really appreciate you coming in, not only to our studio, but the fact that you're running. That's what makes this country great.
It's really my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I've been enjoying myself.
Excellent. Well, it's always good that when you're doing something, you're enjoying yourself. So why don't we start out a little bit about Joe? Tell us a little bit, your life, your history, family, school.
Well, grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Went to my undergrad at Colby College in Waterville, Maine, mostly because it was east of the Mississippi, and that was one of my parents' requirements. They didn't want me to go to the University of Colorado and be a ski bum, so I went to Colby College, and I was a ski bum.
Yeah. Good for you.
I spent 4 years commuting from the mountain back to school, and after that, and spending 4 years in the frozen tundra of Maine, I, on a flyer, just decided that California was the place to go, and applied to a bunch of schools and decided McGeorge was where I wanted to go. And
good school.
Came out to Sacramento. I tell the story how I drove my Buick and all my worldly possessions across country. They fit very easily. There weren't a whole lot of possessions.
Your version of Grapes of Wrath?
Barely that. More like the Reader's Digest version.
Okay, there you go.
Came out here the first 90 days or so. Thanksgiving came around, went back home to Pennsylvania, saw my folks and told them, if I don't bring it with me, burn it, sell it, or give it away, because I'm not coming back. Really love California, like being close to Tahoe, close to San Francisco, being able to see the various sites, and I've made this my home ever since.
Yeah.
I did a short stint in Los Angeles working for a law firm down there.
But you couldn't wait to get out of there, huh?
I got to tell you, 2 years in the city, and this country boy needed to run back home.
That was it, yeah, right.
Needed to feel the grass beneath my feet, needed to see the wildlife. The cement jungle was just more than I could handle.
I understand. Well, that's great. Now, you went to McGeorge, right?
Yes.
Good. And what year did you graduate?
I graduated there in 88.
88. Oh, good. So you've been practicing for a while. Now, your own office? You hung your shingle up? Or?
I started off, like I said, in Los Angeles, working for a firm. Came back to Sacramento and worked for a law firm that I'd clerked for while I was a law student. It was, back then, Hartley Hanson was the lead partner.
Right.
So it was Hanson, Boyd, Culhane, and Watson.
Okay.
I worked for them for about a year and a half, and Hartley, who was my mentor and probably one of the lead attorneys Sacramento's ever seen, lieutenant colonel in the Louisiana Guard, just a great guy, came to me one day and said, Joe, you need to make a decision. You can stay here and work your way up and do this as long as you'd like, or you can go out and start your own firm. But you're kind of at that crossroads where you need to make that decision. He said he would support me in whichever direction I chose. So I went out and started my own firm. I took a friend of mine and we started a small partnership, and we were very fortunate. We did very well. We had a lot of help. Hartley was a wonderful mentor and guide and showed me the rights and wrongs and how to be a lawyer. I've since progressed from that two-person partnership to multiple partnerships. I ultimately put together a fairly large law firm in Sacramento, and just decided that I didn't like the idea of being with 7 partners and a bunch of associates and a huge staff, and I spent more time being a business person running a law firm than I did being a lawyer.
Right.
So after a short period of time there, I went off on my own, and I've been on my own ever since. The only person that has been with me all the way through from beginning to end was my wife, when she's a lawyer also. When we got pregnant, she was put on bed rest, and that's just not something she's going to do. So I decided the only way I could get her to sit around and not run all over creation would be to bring her in my law firm and sit her down, and she's never left.
Ah.
So now I work for her.
Good. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
That's great. So why don't you give us a little idea, why is it you decided to run for office or judge?
Sure. I had a number of friends of mine who have since been appointed to the bench. Kevin Culhane, who's now the assistant presiding judge in Sacramento. David Brown, who's a great friend of mine, is also on the Sacramento bench. Another judge from the Placer bench, and a couple of people from the local area who came to me and said, Joe, we're losing 2 really good judges, and we think you'd be spectacular at this. And I said, that's wonderful, but I've got my practice, and I'm happy, and why in God's name would I want to do this?
Right.
And I thought about it, and they came back to me, and we talked a number of times, and ultimately it came down to a real talk with my wife. And I said, listen, if I want to do this, you're going to have to run the firm. Is that something you want to do? And she's like, honey, please go.
Okay.
And that was what I really needed, so I threw my hat into the ring, and I've been really happy ever since.
And you've been doing it. So what do you think your main qualifications are for being a judge?
I think the biggest thing that I have going is the fact that I've been a trial lawyer for 25 years. That I've really had the opportunity to be in the courtroom, standing in front of judges and juries, and as a trial lawyer, when I walk into the case, everybody hates me. Mm-hmm. I'm the dreaded trial lawyer, the ambulance chaser, the one who's out there trying to get money from my client. And I need to convince a jury to go from, here is this evil trial lawyer, to, wow, he really has a good case, his client deserves this, and have them award money to compensate them for their damages and for their injuries. Mm-hmm. And being able to go through that transformation and being in court and seeing that has really helped me to understand the role of the judge and the role of the jury and to guide them through that. And I've been very successful, and I think that helps me as a judicial candidate to ultimately understand the parties that come before me.
Yeah, I think it's very important that you're an attorney that does go in front of a jury and states a case, and instead of just somebody that's looking into patent law. So good for you on that. That's great.
I think one of the other things that's really important is I have spent 15 years working for the court systems as a volunteer, mm-hmm. as a settlement pro tem, mm-hmm. as a dispute resolution conference judge, or whatever the various acronyms that the various counties use. And I do it not only in El Dorado, but Placer County and Sacramento County. Mm-hmm. And one of the great things is although I volunteer and come when they want me to, they call me. Mm-hmm. And say, Joe, we have a tough case. We want you to work on this so that we can get it settled.
Right.
And my resolution rate is better than 90%. That's unheard of in cases that are right before they're going to litigation, right before they are going to sit down with the judge and the jury and try it. And I've been very successful at being able to understand where the emotions are, where the facts are, where the law is, and how to work people to come together. And that's something that we really need. It's unfortunate that our governor and our legislators have forgotten their 8th grade government classes. There are 3 branches of government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, but the poor judicial branch has had its budget slashed to pennies. We are losing clerks, we are losing employees, we are losing judges, we're not building courtrooms. And we really need someone who can move cases through the system. And because I am so successful at this, that is something that is desperately needed.
Yeah. You actually jumped right into my next question, which is, what do you think is the biggest issues facing the courts right now?
I think our number one issue is a lack of funding. We have lost our ADR commissioner, Stephen Keller. So now our civil courts are trying cases 2 days a week. Well, my usual trials run 10, 12, 14 days. So this is getting on to 2 months of a trial. If there is a Monday holiday, the court is closed. If there's an emergency, that takes preference. If something comes up or a witness is unavailable, that delays the case. So now my cases are running, let's call it 9 weeks. That means we're getting maybe 7 cases tried a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens to every other case that needs to be tried? And if we get a construction defect case that's going to go on for 30 or 40 days, that's the year. We're done. So we really need someone who can hit the ground running, who knows the trial courts, who knows how to do it, and can work the system to get it through as quickly as possible and doesn't have to spend the time learning the process.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And one of the complaints talking to a lot of people is the backlog in the courts. How do you feel about facilities? What's going on with that court facilities? Or lack,
unfortunately, the reality is
yeah.
our budget cuts has slashed our ability to develop a court here in El Dorado County.
Mm-hmm.
We desperately need more space. We need to update the old courtroom or replace it. We've got glorified trailers in Cameron Park. We've got the juvenile detention and the, for lack of a better term, the drug court on Fair Play. They are woefully inadequate, but there's just, we don't have the resources to assist it. And because we have all of these various courts that are so spread out, we are costing the county money. Every time there's a criminal matter, we have to take someone from the jail and escort them from the jail to the courthouse. And that requires sheriffs to go and escort them, who then sit around and wait for them and then escort them back. If we could have a facility that was located close by, we could walk them back and forth or even put them in the same building and save that money and put that money to better use.
Yes.
But that's just not a reality right now.
Okay, so my understanding is that it is being looked at, but their funding is going to be the issue with that.
Until we start funding our courts and
Yeah.
we can get more clerks and we can get more workers, until we can get to a situation where our filing system is not from the 1970s and we can bring it up to the 2000s, we have issues that badly require individual judges who are willing to put in the time and the effort to be prepared to work the system more efficiently, because we're falling behind.
Right. And now the funding or lack thereof is a state issue.
Yes.
Correct? Right. And so we're looking at the situation in all over the state of California. So we're not unique, but we're feeling the effects maybe harder than some.
And that's one of the realities. San Diego County is building a brand new modern courtroom. But San Diego has the infrastructure and all to put it together. When it comes to funding the various courts in the various counties, unfortunately, El Dorado County is not at the forefront. We're kind of behind the curve.
Well, we have we're all aware of the issue with the Sheriff's Department building, which is an absolute disaster. And, of course, a lot of people have talked about a two-pronged solution where the courts and the sheriff's facilities are near each other. You believe that's a good idea?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should be working with the Sheriff's Department. I think we should be consolidating a lot of the county facilities to put them all together, to allow for conversations, to allow for a more beneficial unity where we can put people together and come to results.
Yeah, and we're talking about time savings, money savings, everything that goes along with it, as you mentioned, with bailiffs having to run people around, paperwork that gets transferred all over the county. It would save a lot if we could get that court building built.
It would save us on money. It would save us on time. It would be far more efficient. It's really what we need to do.
Yeah, hopefully we can get this done, because it's time. It's gone on long too much. So let's talk about your campaign a little bit. And I know some people sometimes don't want to talk about it, but the evil is you become a politician. And so why don't you talk a little bit about first of all, let's talk about your associations. Are there law groups or other associations you're proud of being part of?
As far as my campaign or my individual associations?
Yeah.
Well, I have a few associations that I'm really proud of. And this kind of goes back to my parents and the way they brought me. They taught me that you should give because it's what you want to do, and you should do it quietly. It is wonderful for people who want to stand up in front and donate $1 million and have a wing of a hospital put their name, but that's not the way I was raised.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of charities that I work with, that I help out, but I do so quietly.
Okay.
And I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do that's more out in the open is my brother-in-law passed away a few years ago from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is supposed to be 80% curable, and unfortunately it wasn't. He passed away at 42 years of age with 2 young children. And one of the problems he encountered was an inability to find a bone marrow transplant. He had gotten one from his brother. He had gotten one from his other brother, but they had not been perfect matches. They didn't line up as well as we had hoped, and unfortunately that failed. So one of the things that my family did, and mostly I'm proud of my twin daughters put together, was a bone marrow registry in El Dorado County.
Excellent.
And they went around to their friends. They went to the football games at Oak Ridge. We canvassed the neighborhood, and we were able to register over 200 people as potential bone marrow transplant donors, both bone and blood.
Very good.
Now,
Very
we haven't
good.
had a hit yet, but we are hopeful.
Hey, I think it's wonderful. Your family was proactive in getting this started, so kudos to you and your family on that one. That's great. Let's talk about, one of the biggest issues running for office is the expense. It costs an awful lot of money, and we're always talking about our little show here is everything's pure donations for us. So we are very aware of what it takes to raise money. And how are you doing with that? Are you getting help and that you need? Because everybody needs money to run a campaign.
I think the answer that everybody would give is we're not getting all the help we need, but we're getting enough to get by.
Okay. All right.
I've decided to go at it a little differently. Instead of having the usual meets and greets, I've tried to make those meet and greets simply that. Mm-hmm. I haven't sought money. I haven't gone out and tried to collect things like that. I've tried to have it more as a party. We had a wonderful get-together at very good friends of mine, the Grigsbys, who have been just like second grandparents to my children, and they opened up their house, and we had a lovely get-together up there. We had a band and hors d'oeuvres and more than just the usual.
Just a fun time.
Wine and finger sandwiches and the stales. And we did that downtown Sacramento, so that a bunch of the lawyers and all would get together, and we had that there. Now, the big one that is coming up April 24th, thanks to my wife, who's just, I don't know how she did it, and frankly, I don't care, but she was able to get the 70s, 80s rock band Pablo Cruz to come up and play.
Yeah.
So April 24th at Reunion, we are having a concert. And we're going to do the red carpet and the velvet ropes and the spotlights and
how cool
the
is
whole
that?
thing at Reunion.
Yeah.
And we've got people coming in. So we're trying to, instead of asking for money, we're trying to provide at least something for it. It's still a fundraiser, and don't get me wrong, we're looking to make the money. But we're trying to make it an experience that people enjoy and that's fun.
That'd be a fun time. That sounds really good. Are you putting your own funds into your campaign?
I am putting my time, my money, my effort, my wife, my kids. If we have it, we're putting it out there.
Okay, good.
I don't think it's right that I should ask everybody else to donate for me
if you don't put in
and not
yourself.
Have, the way we say it, is some skin in the game.
I'm glad to hear that from you. Have you done any debates with your opponents recently?
We've had a few forums.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
We had the Tea Party Forum. We had the El Dorado County Bar Forum. We've got the League of Women Voters. Unfortunately, again, that is the same date as our concert. But they've been really nice to me. They said I could come in early and do a quick speech and say hello and meet and greet and then run as quickly as I can. And they have offered me a table at their flea market that Saturday. So, unfortunately, on that date, I won't be able to answer everybody's questions and do it at the same time as everyone else.
Right.
But I'm hoping that everybody has a chance to come on out and meet us that Saturday. And as I've said to everyone who's asked, I will answer any question, anytime, anywhere. I'm an open book. I'm proud of my record. I've been exceedingly lucky. I've been exceedingly fortunate, and I'm happy to answer whatever is asked of me.
You know, Joe, should you not have a tool to answer some of the questions that might come up, we're willing to have you in here so that you can answer those questions and so that people can see them. So just to let you know, you're more than welcome to come back and answer any questions.
It would be my pleasure.
That'd be great. So what do you think is going to be one of the very first things you're going to do when you're elected?
Well, I know the first thing they're going to do is assign me somewhere and then quickly send me off to judges school.
Right.
So I will be assigned to whatever court it is. If I had my choice, it would be the civil bench. It's what I've done. It's what I know. It's what I'm very good at.
Right.
My expectation is it probably won't. It'll be a family law or dependency. But whatever it is, I will do what I've always done. I like to tell the story. Of all my opponents, each and every one of them is kind of like back in the Roman gladiator days. They're kind of like the Romans. They're interested. They all get paid by the hour or by the county or whatever it is, and every lawyer likes to win, so they're all interested in what the outcome is. For me, being a trial attorney, I'm more like the Christians. I'm committed. The Christians don't fight and win, they die. For me, if I don't fight and win for my client, the time, the effort, the money, it's all gone. I work on a contingency fee basis. If I don't win, I lose it all. So I'm committed to each and every one of my clients.
That certainly would be a reason, wouldn't it? You want to make sure you get that. So let's talk about your philosophy on sitting on the bench.
Sure.
Do you know what? I mean, how are you going to bring something fresh to the county as a judge?
One of the hallmarks of my career is that every time I have gone into the courtroom, because of my commitment, because of my need to win, I am the most prepared person in the case. Better than my client, I know what has happened. The defense attorney, the defendant, everybody. There is not anyone who knows more than I do. There's some other defense counsel who will work as hard as I do, but nobody works harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to bring to the bench. I will work harder than anybody else so that I know what is going on, so that I'm prepared for the matter, and that we can proceed, using a term that I've always hated, quote, with all deliberate speed, but still knowing what is going on and giving everybody their opportunity to have their say. I think one of the great things that I would bring to the bench is that I'm kind of a forest guy as opposed to a leaf guy. I'm interested in the results, but I'm kind of a laid-back guy, and I'm interested in the result, not the process. So when someone comes to me, I'm willing to listen to them. I'm willing to be open. And it's that kind of demeanor that's not as strict, that is not as staunch, that is not as closed. I think the bench should be open to people. They should be able to come before and not be intimidated by the black robe and the high seat and looking up. I like it as more as a colloquial discussion, so that people feel like they've really had their say, and that when a determination is rendered from the bench, they know that I listened to them, that I heard what they say, that I considered it, and I wasn't just fleeting or made a decision off the top of my head.
That's great. That's great. That's what we need, because it can be a very intimidating situation for people, and being decisive, making the right judgments, doing it in a timely manner are probably the most important parts of sitting as a judge. So when you take office, you swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States, right?
Yes.
And most of those out there know me, and I'm a very much pro-Second Amendment guy. Let's just speak about the Second Amendment a little bit.
I guess my basic philosophy is, growing up in Pennsylvania, we are taught to safely utilize guns from a very early age. In fact, one of the great things about Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey is the Monday after Thanksgiving is a school holiday because everybody's out deer hunting.
Perfect.
I think everyone should have the right to bear arms. I don't think there's any question about it. It shouldn't be impeded in any way, shape, form, or manner. I also think, and this is one of the unfortunate things, is the way I was raised, you learn to care for a gun before you learn to shoot a gun.
Right.
And I think one of the really important things we need to bring to our next generation is how important it is to care safely for a gun, to lock it away, to keep it away from children who haven't been taught how to handle them. There's nothing more heart-rendering than hearing about someone who has gotten a hold of mom or dad's gun and has shot a friend accidentally when they were playing with it. It's so easily avoided.
Absolutely,
that is the user. That is
one. Right.
That's the user. That is not the gun.
Right, and it's on the person. So, I mean, it seems to me that we lose sight of the Bill of Rights so easily, and you hear politicians that are so willing to just throw them aside if there's an amendment they don't like. And it just kills me, because these people have sworn to defend the Constitution. Yet at the same time, they go, well, I don't like the Second Amendment, I don't like the Fourth Amendment, that type of thing. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm glad to hear, what are your views on the Fourth Amendment? Let's talk about that.
It's interesting you should bring that up. About a year ago, I was involved in a nationally recognized case. It was the Nikolaev case involving Child Protective Services, in which a Russian and German immigrants had a child that they were overly concerned about because he had a heart defect. Mm-hmm. And before undergoing open heart surgery, they wanted a second opinion. And there was a personality conflict between the cardiologist and the mother. The cardiologist was from the Middle East. The mother was from Germany. She was very headstrong. He didn't like her asking questions. And she wanted a second opinion.
Yeah.
And had it been me and my child, I wouldn't have wanted a second opinion. I would have wanted a third and a fourth and a fifth.
Right.
Because I'm going to make absolutely sure my child is in the best possible position before undergoing open heart surgery. And there were some very unfortunate events brought about by the hospital, and the mother ended up taking her child out of the hospital and taking her to another hospital. Of course, the doctor didn't like this and reported the mother to Child Protective Services, and Child Protective Services just didn't cross the line. They backed up and got a running start and jumped across the line. And they stole this child away from her without a warrant, without a judge's order, just running roughshod over the 4th and 15th Amendments that the parents and the child have. Now, the good news is this family was able to reach out to me, and I was able to intercede. And within a short period of time, we were able to get Child Protective Services to see the light. In fact, at the very first hearing, what was initially supposed to be a detention hearing where mom and dad are excluded from the child, we convinced them to change it to a non-detention hearing, which means mom and dad have absolute and total rights to their child. There were some minor restrictions, but they were common sense restrictions that we were more than willing to accept. The upshot is this: when they came to take the child, there was an assault and battery by the police officers against the husband. Stole the keys out of his pocket, said, "Look, we have the keys," and then broke into the house, violating their constitutional rights. As they walked through the house, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of the story. The mother in this case saw the officer beating her husband and thought, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" as she's holding a 5-month-old baby.
Yeah.
And had the foresight to turn on a video camera.
Wow.
So we can actually see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And as the door to the house is opened up, we can see the officer saying, come out, we have an order, we'll show you the order." The truth is there was no order.
Yeah.
They absolutely lied. The tape goes on to show how the mother is sitting there saying, "Okay, let's go to the hospital. I'll go to the hospital, tell me where we're going." And the social worker has the temerity to say, we're not going to tell you where we're taking your child. I don't think you're rational. Now, this is a tape that went on for 18 minutes.
Wow.
And if people are coming to take my child, I'm going to be yelling and screaming and upset and barring the door.
Sure.
You can see in this tape, this woman is calm. She's calling the police. She's calling her friend who is a lawyer. She's speaking to these police officers who've broken into her house and to the social worker who's trying to steal her child in a calm and dignified manner. And this social worker has the audacity to say she's not the rational person. So when you ask me about the Fourth Amendment, this is something I feel very strongly about.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And thank goodness she had a videotape on that, huh? Well, you know what? We're reaching the 30-minute mark, and this is where I usually give you the opportunity to, let's tell the folks about your website, where they can find your website and where they can donate and find out about coming seeing Pablo Cruz and all those wonderful things. So go ahead and take this last minute here and tell us all about it.
It'd be my pleasure. You can look on our website. It's Weinberger, Weinberger, the number 4, judge.com. On the homepage, there will be a space that you can click, which will take you right to the tickets for Pablo Cruz. And again, that's April 24th, a week from Thursday, at Reunion in El Dorado Hills. The website has a bio on me. It tells you all about my growing up and what I do.
I got it.
I've got a bit of a CV out there that tells you a little bit about it. It's got my endorsements and the judges and the lawyers and the common citizens and the individuals who have endorsed me, and most of them have asked me to run. If you want to look on my legal website, you can see a number of the video clips involving that case that I was talking about. That would be at weinbergerlaw.net. You can also go to YouTube, and if you look up Baby Sammy or Nikolayev, Nikolayev, you will see the clips from Fox News and Good Morning America and the Today Show and Glenn Beck and The View.
Good for you. Yes, good, very good. So listen, folks, don't forget, it takes money to run for office. So don't forget to donate to Joe. And hey, when you're at it, let's hit a little donation for Old Guy Tech TV too. So
That's
Joe,
right.
thank
Rob,
you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It went really well. We flew by, and like I said, we're always here for you. If you feel like, after the League of Women Voters, if you can't answer some of those questions and want to come in and do it, we're here for you.
I'd be happy to. It'd be my pleasure.
That'd be great.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you very much. And hey, thanks again for watching Old Guy Tech TV interviews. And today's interview was Joe Weinberger, running for judge in El Dorado County. I'm Rob Charney with Old Guy Tech TV. We'll see you next time.